Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Pleasure Points Podcast. I'm your host, James Rohr. I'm at the Tongue Guy on TikTok. Thank you so much for being here. I am joined by the one and only Fred Frederiksen. He is a filmmaker, a documentarian, philanthropist, an all-around solid dude who's doing a lot of good work in and around Chicago. We cover a lot of ground in this episode, so don't expect us to just stay in one place. We're going all over the place, from helping the homeless to UFOs to childhood crushes. So, without further ado, enjoy the episode. All right, we're live. What's up, Fred Frederiksen?
Howdy, howdy. This has been a long time coming.
Totally. It's been, since I started the podcast?
Quite literally
yeah.
since you started. I remember listening to your first ep, rating it, because, I'm a good friend.
Appreciate that.
Yep. And thinking, well, shit, I've got shit to talk about, and I think it's like right in line with what you're up to.
Yeah. Let's hear it. Be charming. Be wise. No pressure.
Let me drop some knowledge, folks.
When I is your first name Fred, or is it like birth name is Fred?
No.
It's David, right?
If we want to tell the world, sure.
Oh, okay.
Uncle Sam probably already knew that, but his droogs did not.
Because every time it's irrelevant really, but I used to, when I was in college, this guy lived across the hall from me. His name was Scotty Scott. His last name was Scott, and he chose to be Scotty. It was like, I don't know if it was his middle name or he was just like, I want to be Scotty Scott.
Listen, the moment I started going by Fred Frederiksen,
Yeah.
people remembered my name because David's forgettable.
Totally.
Throw it in the can. Nobody cares about David.
Yep.
But also the double enunciation, people would laugh. They'd get excited. It was the smartest move I made, since high school.
It's great.
Thank you.
I love it. It's super catchy.
You want to hear something fun?
Tell me.
I didn't know this when I started going by Fred Frederiksen, but like 5-10 years down the line, I realized, wait a minute, this was already featured in a movie. That Thing You Do. You know the movie?
Yeah.
A really charming one with the band that goes around touring.
Totally.
Well, they tour with a Fred Frederiksen who opens for them.
No way.
Yeah. And you only hear it in passing. You're not,
Yeah.
you never meet this character. It's just, and now Fred Frederiksen. I was like, what the fuck? This is awesome.
That's amazing.
So that's my claim to fame.
I was just thinking about that movie last night. That's the one with Tom Hanks, right? Where he's the band manager.
There's one of the main characters looks like Tom Hanks' son. So could you be mistaking him for somebody else?
It's possible.
I don't think Tom Hanks is in there.
Is it his son or it's the guy?
It's this actor who looks just like a young Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about that movie because we watched the Elvis movie last night.
Oh, how was that?
We didn't finish it.
Okay.
It's pretty long.
Yeah.
There were some cool things about it. I don't know much about Elvis at all, so I was interested. But it's like Baz Luhrmann who did Moulin Rouge. It's the real musical vibes.
Was Elvis also a musical?
Elvis, I don't know if they would technically call this a musical, but Tom Hanks is the band. He's like Elvis's promoter.
Cool.
And the movie feels like it's more about the promoter than it is about Elvis. It's like a little weird. But I was thinking about that movie, That Thing You Do, because I thought Tom Hanks was in it.
Charming as hell.
It's super.
Yeah. And that song will stick in your head now that you've heard us say it out loud.
Yeah.
Listeners.
Awesome. Well, I'm super happy to have you on here because when we hang out in person, like our conversations can go all sorts of directions.
Yes, they can.
Before we get too deep in this, I want to celebrate the work you're doing with bicycles and helping people fix their bikes. So tell us a little bit about, that charity work that you're doing.
Thank you. Excuse me. Chicago Bike Project is something that I kind of came up with on a whim. So a little backstory for me. I've been biking my whole life, and I was kind of clumsy and would, take my bike off small ramps, just like Napoleon Dynamite might, and eating shit all the time. So my bike would break, and I'd tell my dad, hey, Dad, you got to fix this. And he's a mechanical engineer, so he would always do it himself. We'd never take it to a shop. And, I'd thank him and do it all over again. And after X amount of times, my dad sat me down and he said, now, Fred, wink, wink, we are going to fix this together because I'm not fixing it again. This is your last chance. Like, you watch what I do now because I'm not coming back. And so I paid a lot of attention that time.
I bet.
And it piqued my curiosity with mechanical work, and I've been tinkering with bikes ever since. So that dates back to, me being 8 years old. Fast forward, I worked at a bike shop some, and I had a vast understanding of how wasted so many bikes became. I was always on the sales floor, so people would come in and say, I got this junker bike, I don't want you guys to take it. And I knew we didn't take it, so I know, all right, there's a bunch of bikes floating around somewhere. I'd always find some in the alley, things like that. So this past December, I'm just scrolling through Facebook and I see the Greek metropolis of Chicago has something called a mustard seed fund going around. And it's like, pitch us an idea. Pitch us an idea of what you think would be a cool ministry for us to take on. And I was like, well, I like to fix bikes. I like to get my hands dirty. I haven't been able to do that for a while. It puts hair on my chest and, it feels good to build something once in a while. And I applied with this idea where with this grant, I would be able to afford parts, pieces, accessories to repair existing bikes for the homeless. So I had already befriended a bunch of dudes in Humboldt Park and had been fixing their bikes for a few months, but I knew I can't keep this coming out of my wallet. This is just unfeasible.
Mm.
And it also helps to like have an actual backing by some organization.
Sure.
And so, excuse me.
Uh-huh.
And so I applied to fix bikes for the homeless. And sure enough, 3 months later, I got the approval.
Awesome.
Right. It was huge. It was big, big news. I was super jazzed. I didn't expect anything would really come of it. And then sure enough, the parish priest announced it to the church. We put it in the bulletin. And from there, we've had about 30 bikes donated from parishioners, friends, things like that. They're just coming out of the woodwork. It's been really inspiring. Everyone wants to get involved. I've got a nasty thing in my throat.
That's all right.
Everyone's interested in getting involved, and I've had people offer to be mechanics. People have offered to pay for parts and pieces and accessories. I've had people who have even come forward and said, yeah, I actually got this guy living around the corner from me, and he would totally benefit from getting a bike. So it's been this thing that has just blossomed before my eyes. We've already doubled the amount of donations since. So 6 months later, we've already doubled what that grant was.
Awesome.
And this is kind of like fresh breaking news, but I also applied for another grant and was awarded that 2 days ago.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Yeah, so it's a matching grant, so it'll match up to $10,000.
Amazing.
So folks who are listening, if you guys like to give bikes to the homeless or at least keep bikes running, go to Chicago Bike Project, Instagram, Facebook, or St. George, St. George Greek Orthodox Church is website. It's a mouthful. And find a way to donate.
That's so cool.
Link in bio.
Yeah, nice.
Back to link in bio.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's very cool. This will sound super pretentious and ignorant of me. I guess I didn't realize that homeless population, that like bikes were such a hot commodity.
Oh my God.
Or, I mean, hot being the operative word. Like, how do they keep them from being stolen?
Two good points raised here. First and foremost, like, I knew getting around Chicago, everywhere is accessible within 5 miles. You could bike to the dock. You could bike to a court. You could bike to groceries, school. Anything is within 5 miles. Walking 5 miles sucks. If you've ever done it, you're like, there goes half my day.
Right.
Because you got to talk about the 5 miles back too. On a bike, that drastically improves your opportunity getting around. And also, it's just kind of a freeing feeling. Being on top of wheels allows you to go further and faster, and there's something that makes you feel like you're being uplifted. And so I came to the bike because not only is it in my blood, but I know that people would benefit the same way I have, because I didn't have a car in the city for the first 12 years. Now I have a car, thank you, pandemic, because I had to get out of the city now and then just for my own peace of mind.
Right.
But the bike was my mode of transportation, and I knew anyone and everyone could benefit from it. How do they keep it? Well, any bike we're giving out comes with a lock. It's a U-lock and a cable, so both the frame and the wheels remain theirs. And when we deliver the bikes, we teach them how to use them. We teach them how to use the locks, what to lock up to. We show them their lights. We show them how to use a rear rack and store their goodies on the back. And it's actually been a really heartwarming experience because, there's an assumption, homeless people, they're making a choice to stay outside, and they might be a little off the rocker, something that, doesn't fit in with your paradigm of a functioning human.
Yeah.
But these people are fully coherent. They are totally with it. They want to kind of be a part of society in an undercurrent way. And to a degree, I admire it. Like they don't want to give their money to Uncle Sam, and they have a system that works for them. So who am I to bash it? So I have not felt awkward around them. I have not felt like they're, begging for money. These are normal people who just choose a different lifestyle.
How do you pick who gets to receive a bike?
That's to be determined. I mean, I'm sitting on bikes right now, and it's very strange to think like I've got a hot commodity, as you've called it, and I'm having a hard time finding homes for them. So a lot of the people I've asked, have one or multiple bikes. I don't know how they come across them, but that's their business. I'm not going to ask those questions. So, a lot of the people I'm familiar with have them. So I've been able to supply them parts and pieces to keep those things running. But then I've also reached out to organizations that work with the homeless. So there's tons of organizations, whether it's food pantries, halfway houses, organizations that actually go to the tent villages in the city and visit them regularly, check in on them. And I'm not getting anything back. I'm saying there's some really weird bureaucratic white tape stuff that's like holding things back, but I'm not getting responses. It's a little baffling, but we'll get there.
It's so weird.
It is. I mean, we're kind of climbing outside of what most people would consider biking season.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're homeless, you're going to bike 4 seasons, so I don't think they're going to be done with it, but I would like to get these bikes in the right hands as soon as possible.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's like such a great thing. And you're right, there's a freedom to being on a bike. I remember when I was a kid and I, learned how to ride a bike, and then I was allowed just to be like a free range kid, being the third of 4. It was like whatever, just be home by dark, and having a set of wheels was everything.
It was everything. It's funny you should mention that. I had the same upbringing. Are you a suburbanite of Chicago?
Yeah, of course.
Where kids biking is okay.
Right.
A regular summer day for me was me and my friends would take what's called the Prairie Path. Did you ever have one of those?
Yeah, sure.
We'd take the Prairie Path like 3 towns over and just explore.
Yeah.
Our boundaries were limitless. It's however far our legs could take us, and that is just something I don't really see kids doing these days. But maybe I'm just naive to what the kids are up to.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends. But I certainly don't let Wyatt ride around by himself.
Right.
It's like,
There's a different understanding too.
Totally. But what's interesting, like I listened to this guy, Jordan Peterson, and he was saying that like crime and abductions and stuff like that there's not any more of it now than there was when we were kids. The difference is it's publicized. And so with this spread of like news and internet news, the kind of like guilt and shame and canceling of the parents that can happen if something were to happen to a kid while he was playing by himself, for instance, that is so magnified that's what has parents being extra protective. Wow. It's not actually that their kids are in more danger. It's that the sort of the societal blowback is so much louder for parents now. I don't know. I haven't like checked this. I don't fact check his numbers, but a lot of what he says to me just strikes me as being incredibly logical and true. So
I loved how you framed that too. It's like the societal blowback on the parent. It's like as though the parent wasn't suffering from losing a kid. It's more like, oh, now the community's banded against me for allowing them, to go out past dark.
Yeah. I mean, it isn't like, it sounds insane when you say it like that, but also like what we know about loneliness. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but, in traditional cultures, from what I understand, some of them, the worst punishment they could give wasn't death. It was excommunication from the tribe.
Right.
And so when you're like feeling this tremendous amount of loss and then also feeling ostracized from your community, like that's a double whammy. That would be hard to recover. I mean, any one of those is hard to recover from.
Right. I go back to another podcast I listen to. Can I plug another one?
Yeah, please.
One of the best and most intense podcasts I listen to on like an emotional level, but also it like taps into some topics you'd never consider thinking about, is called Love and Radio, or Love Plus Radio. And they have an episode out there called I believe, the red dot. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Mm-mm.
So I think, at the advent of the internet, it was kind of put into legislation that any sex offender has a red dot that follows them on the equivalent of a Google map anywhere they move to for the rest of their lives. And you can become a sex offender at, I think, any age after like 15 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if a 15-year-old was busted peeing in an alley because kids got to pee.
Right. Near a playground.
Not even. It could be any alley. It could be by an old folks home.
Oh, wow.
And if they get busted and tagged for it, they've got a red dot that follows them the rest of their lives. And so this podcast, it creates a protagonist out of an antagonist. And it talks about the societal difficulties of being ostracized and how the targets put on your back can be far-reaching. People who you've never met are egging your house from 5 towns over because they think you're a bad dude.
Yeah.
And I'm not, saying this person's good or bad. I'm just saying it is hard on the human psyche to get that type of treatment from a whole community.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Black Mirror?
Yeah.
The episode with
know.
John Hamm, right?
Where they get phased?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Dude,
I love that.
I can't watch that show anymore because it's like it's too close now to reality. When I first started watching, I was like, oh, that's crazy. But now it's like with the deep fakes and all of the things, it's like there could be when I'm dead, Jen might have a doll of me that, just replays variations, the podcast episodes spliced up to have a conversation with her.
Right. Well, you know how it goes now. Have you heard about Adobe being able to take, I think they said 60 seconds of your speech, say anything for 60 seconds. So clearly you are replicatable at this point.
Right.
They could take that speech, the patterns, the intonations, and make you say anything. Anything.
Wow.
So the deep fake when it comes to audible dialogue is as scary as it can get.
Yikes.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
terrifying.
Very terrifying.
I mean, that whole thing of, is this real? Is now a question that, like, why it's going to have to ask forever.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't like, growing up, you might hear like the moon landing was fake. There's like a couple of things like Gulf of Tonkin, right? It's like, is this real? COVID. No. But now it's just like, that's a question that's in the background like all the time. Like, is this real?
Part of me loves it.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah. Living in this like pseudo reality, this interesting mystery of life. It's like, how many times do I have to beg the question, like, well, who made that? Like, where's this opinion coming from, or this fact for that matter? Because obviously everyone's got an agenda. When I was going to college, this actually makes me think, like, at the time, this was kind of a novel thing when news was not really questioned. It wasn't fake news and stuff. I created my own conspiracy theory, which just like, if I'm being honest, I dove deep for myself. I was like, whoa, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I'm not coming back for a while. This was a semester long project, or 2 semesters maybe, but it was all about how Edgar Cayce, are you familiar? The sleeping prophet.
Yep.
He prophesied that there were Atlantean records buried beneath the Sphinx's paw.
Ooh.
And this was at a time when everyone's like, Atlanteans who now? There were ideas, but they were all fabled at that time. And basically the chamber under the Sphinx was actually checked out by this guy, Robert Schoch, who has a degree in seismology, where you send shockwaves down into the earth. And there was indeed a chamber, and it had things in it. And so I played off of that, and I went with it. But it felt really powerful to create a false reality where I can like take so many things based out of reality and put a spin on it, just a teensy tinge of, my own fake history. And it to cause into question, like, well, wait a minute, the majority of this has been real. So at what point did it stop being real? And I think there was some level of deception that I really, really appreciate as like an artist, because I think all artists have some level of deception in their work, whether they're talking about themselves or society. But now that it's become such a reality, I'm kind of like swimming in it at this point. I'm not sure if I love it anymore, but always intrigued. Always.
That's where I like the Instagram versus reality pictures.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, especially with van life as we're recording in Vanchovy. You know, it's like I've been on the roads. I've been in those campsites. I've been in those pullouts where to the right it's like a beautiful river, and to the left is, you know, like a Cracker Barrel and a Walmart and a
1,000
truck
other
stop.
photographers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, the influencers in the wild.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But having that, there is something, you know, refreshing or smart to just kind of question everything. You know, like, what is this? Is this real? Yeah, I don't know. And then, you know, we'll see when it comes to like UFO disclosures.
Oh my gosh.
Like
left and right things are
all of
pouring
that
out.
stuff. It's crazy, man. It's like, is all this COVID and the lockdown just like an elaborate, you know, probably not deliberately intentional, like laid out like that, but did the powers that be like take advantage of all of that
Like,
to
now's
like
a good time.
to just start with this disclosure? Because I think it wasn't it in the COVID relief bill that they said
It was built in,
was
wasn't it?
built into the COVID relief bill where they like forced the issue to have the Pentagon hearing or releasing of some papers and stuff. And I just saw that guy, what's his name, Jeremy Corbell. He's like the Joe Rogan's had him on the podcast all the time. He's the UFO guy. Let me see if I can find his. He just showed on his Instagram the new logo for. Here we go. The new logo for the Office of the Director of the National Intelligence, and it's got a plane, a fighter jet, a satellite, and then a UFO.
Yes, that's real. Are we questioning reality right now? Is that real?
I think it's real. I don't know.
That seems like an April Fool's joke.
Seems like it's from their website. Check it out on the website.
Oh my gosh!
I mean,
love that they throw it down
disclosed
in the corner. They're like, we're not totally including this with, you know, man-made objects.
Well, like with it, you know, the verification of the Tic Tac thing, and then I heard someone was telling me that they're seeing increased incidences of UFOs over Ukraine.
No surprise there.
Because we know, right? I mean, no, what do we know? But there have been lots of reports that around nuclear sites there's an increased activity of UFOs. The thinking being that maybe the aliens don't want us to nuke ourselves.
I mean, yeah.
Or maybe they want a front row seat. I don't know.
I like that perspective as well. Yeah, it's very intriguing. I think we're in an incredible age of people like really going down the History Channel 2 rabbit hole of like Skywalker Ranch and UFO files lifted and ancient aliens. Like, we're in a ripe era to.
Yeah.
You're right. We're getting buttered up.
Yeah.
Like,
it certainly seems that way.
The government's all about these shows coming out just so that, like, by the time things come out, we're all like, what else you got? Like, tell me something I haven't heard.
Well, isn't there that idea that Hollywood is just like the PR agency for the government, and like they'll get like ideas that, you know, they start that desensitization process of like War of the Worlds or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. You know, I was joking with Wyatt about this over the weekend. The fact that we just like shrug our shoulders at certain things and then get on with our life on some levels is absolutely astounding to me. Like the fact that we could look at the pyramids and just be like, yeah, we couldn't build those today. Our modern equipment, not equipped to handle it, don't understand the engineering, can't build the tunnels. Like, where did they get the stone from? Like, and then we're just sort of shrug our shoulders and we're like, oh, that's fucking weird. And then we just like get out like arguing about like, you know, arguing on the internet over some picture or football game or something,
Right.
you know, and it's just like, how do we just accept that? Like, what are other things that we shrug our shoulders
obviously
with?
We're not arguing about why they're ancient alien spacecraft pads. You know, that's clearly where they land. I watched Stargate. I get it. I know how this works.
Yeah.
That's where my deep hole started, Stargate.
Yeah.
They did a really good job of tying in, you know, old fun conspiracy theories and like intercessions from actual gods who were kind of just superhuman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that concept. I think that's a really fun place to go.
One of my favorite quotes these days has been the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is about 6 months.
That's good. That's very funny.
Yeah. So I forget what else Wyatt and I were talking about. There was something else beyond the pyramids. We were just like, yeah, everyone's just like, huh, That's pretty weird.
Well, to add to the pyramid thing, it's funny that you should mention like shrugging our shoulders. Just 2 days ago, on the BBC, they're like, we think we finally found out how they moved the stones by boat. And it's like, oh, it took us, 4,000 years to realize water actually was close to the pyramids, and they used boat technology. How about that? Wow.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. They didn't roll these on logs for like 500 miles. Get out of town. Come on.
Well, the Nile used to be right next to the pyramids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Nile's moved, what, is it 5 or 6 miles away now?
Far enough that it's like hard to suspect that as the initial way to moving that many stones.
Yeah. Have you ever been out there?
No, it's a dream.
So you want to go?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with anything ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that means I am watching The Mummy 1, 2, and 3 all the time. Scorpion King rules.
Brendan Fraser just made a comeback in some
saw.
movie that got a 20-minute standing ovation at some film festival.
My mind.
He was in tears. It was so endearing to see. It was awesome.
Part of me is like, is this clickbait? Like, am I clicking on the clickbait here? Obviously, everyone loves Brendan Fraser. There's no question about it. He's America's heartthrob from the early yachts. But the clickbaity part was, it was him as chubby as you've ever seen him.
Right.
And I honestly just wanted to see a side-by-side comparison with him then versus in The Mummy, where he was like a super
jacked.
hot dude.
Yeah.
Just awesome hair all the time. Ultimately, I want to see that movie because Brendan Fraser.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I would stand up and ovate him for 20 minutes.
You need to tell your wife that?
Is ovate the right?
Sounds very active.
Yes, it does. Lots of clapping.
I think we're gonna have to call that might be the title of this episode. I would ovate him.
Brendan Fraser.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Any male Hollywood heartthrobs that you have buried deep down in the books?
No, not that. Not men. I used to be obsessed with Elizabeth Shue.
What? Oh,
she was the babysitter from Adventures in Babysitting, and then I think she was in Melrose Place, and then she was with Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas.
Okay.
I used to think she was so hot. I totally was obsessed with her.
I have no idea who this Miss Shue is, but
yeah,
I think I'll have to do some Googling soon.
Enjoy.
I will. Are we talking about old Jim, like just hitting pubescent Jim?
Yeah.
Wasn't there? So now would you still have similar thoughts?
I mean, probably. She was beautiful.
Yeah.
She was cool.
Yeah.
And Leaving Las Vegas, she was amazing. That movie's so sad.
When was the last time you Googled her?
It's been a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always got to find out how people age.
No idea. No idea what she looks like now. But I was talking to my sister. Hi, Becky, if you're listening. Is my other listeners I'm interviewing right now. Fred's here.
One day we'll be in the same van together.
If I record an episode with you and Becky at the same time, then maybe nobody would listen to the episode.
Yeah.
You guys recorded it.
This is what happens when worlds collide.
But we were talking about that new Top Gun movie, and my sister was upset that they didn't bring back the female lead from the first one. Who was it? Kelly McGinnis, was that her name?
I never saw it. I'm sorry.
Oh, you never saw it?
No.
Oh, yeah. They didn't bring her back because now she's like an old woman.
But
and Hollywood
old men age great. But
yeah,
women,
totally. But yeah, that was the whole beef is that Hollywood is just savage that way. And she's like, I don't want to support the movie, but then the movie was so good. I can't remember if she saw it or not, but the movie's really good.
And if we're being honest, Tom Cruise just ages like fine wine.
He might eat small children.
And that's okay.
Yeah, he might eat babies. I don't know.
If it means I get another Mission Impossible, count me in.
That guy's crazy.
Yeah.
His commitment. I like reading enjoyed reading the stories behind the filming of the new Top Gun, because he's insane with his commitment to doing the stunts. Is
he considered a method actor, or is he just all about doing his own stunts?
I don't. What does that mean if someone's a method actor?
I think it's just where you dive so deep into your character, you tell people start calling you by that name.
No,
and
he's not
leave
he's not like
okay.
that. But he's a pilot, and he's obsessed with
Really?
like making good movies.
Good for him.
So, yeah, there's a scene at the very end of the movie where like you see him flying a plane, and it's like he's flying the plane. It's his plane
That's badass.
that he's flying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
No, it's not like Daniel Day-Lewis or whatever, and
Right,
you know,
right.
like you can imagine
The
him walking
known method
around,
actor.
like, yeah, like I'll drink your milkshake.
One of my favorite quotes from There Will Be Blood.
That movie is so good.
Yeah, I was Daniel Day-Lewis one Halloween, as that character, and you better believe I said that all night long
All
in the
night.
raspiest of voices. I
Yeah.
lost my voice by the next day.
Yeah.
It was actually the first and only time I threw a seance called Bring Back Bernie Mac, and we had a bonfire in my parents' backyard in the Chicago suburbs, where we burned at least like 3 trees. It was wild. Yeah.
Did Bernie Mac come back? Did he visit
no,
you?
No,
Did you
it was
sense him?
like less than a half-ass attempt. It was really just a title for the night. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do a lot of filming for work. You like film commercials and make all sorts of stuff. Have you ever like tried to write a screenplay or anything? Have you made short films?
My writing sucks.
Mm,
I never ever have relied on my writing as something that can carry me anywhere.
gotcha.
When it comes to my approach, I always say like there's nothing more interesting than people.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do some wacky shit and you just have to be there ready with a camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in many scenarios capturing the weirdest of things. So my perfect situation is just a documentarian. I think there's enough interesting stories that exist that I'll never have to write anything.
Yeah.
But I fully appreciate, like, my favorite genre is easily sci-fi fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So I fully appreciate writing. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Have you ever wanted to like film movies? Do like feature-length movies?
I would like to do that someday.
Cool.
Yeah, I would like to have a project that takes multiple months, if not years, to dive into and like care about like a baby.
Is there a movie or two that stands out as like the sort of the ultimate sort of cinematographic experience for you? Or something that you just like totally love and you're like, oh, I love that style, or they do a great job with lighting or anything like that?
Well, I'll say one of the more inspiring couple documentaries I've seen, since I would aspire to be a documentarian.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a kind of a back-to-back movie here, or documentary. One is called The Look of Silence, and the other is, oh geez, now it's slipping me. I'll get back to you on that, but
Yeah.
I think the director's name's Oppenheimer, and ultimately he goes into Indonesia post-Civil War and kind of just hangs out and interviews the winners of what would otherwise be a political genocide.
Wow.
And he goes to these places and has these folks who are, for lack of better words, murderers. And he has them kind of reenact how they got to power,
Wow.
what they did. And it's like, it still raises hairs on my arm right now just thinking about it. He was a cinematic genius in this. Like, you would think the movie was planned out to a T at every location, every camera angle. It was so spot on, and there's so many serene moments where you're just kind of living in the space that he creates, and you're watching these characters who are otherwise not acting. They are being themselves and living their best lives, reenacting a murder that they've committed, and just kind of relishing in it. And it struck a deep chord in my heart where I'm like, whoa, you know,
Wow.
this guy has approached a genocide in the weirdest of ways, speaking to the successor, and has shed light on a subject I never knew existed, which I think is crucial for any documentary.
Mm-hmm.
So that one stands out big time,
Wow.
big time. The other one that also stands out, which I think you'd also appreciate, is called Some Kind of Heaven.
Mm.
This takes place in probably the weirdest place in America. It's called The Villages. Have you heard of this?
Mm-mm.
The Villages is the largest retirement community in the world in Florida.
Oh, it's in Florida. I know someone that lives there.
Yes. You need to ask him all about
An
it.
old high school teacher of mine lives there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to get a glance at what this dude's life is most likely like,
Yeah.
it's a bunch of like over-enthused, super horny seniors
Uh-huh.
who are rolling around in golf carts, drinking way too much, like synchronized swimming and dancing, and just like living their best lives that they may not have gotten to live out, in their younger years.
Uh-huh.
And if you want to talk about a cinematography genius, like that movie, yet again, is so precise in every shot, every angle. And, when looking into this director whose name's slipping me, apparently he lived in the villages for like 5 months or a year, somewhere up there, just to get to know these people,
Mm-hmm.
to be on their level, for them to be comfortable with a camera,
Yeah.
for him to enter spaces that otherwise, if you just walked in one day, you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
So he built rapport and composed these shots, and what came out is just genius. A whole documentary story where you're like, no way is this a documentary. You're questioning reality.
It's like a Waiting for Guffman kind of situation.
I don't know. Describe that to me.
Waiting for Guffman is done by the same guy who does Best in Show
Oh yeah,
with
like a giant ensemble.
where it's like a mockumentary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It feels like a documentary, but it's a full-on documentary.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. There was a while when I heard that when the dick pills started coming out, like Cialis and Viagra, that the population most at risk for STDs was the elderly,
Yes.
because they started popping all these dick pills,
Yes.
having all sorts of crazy sex. And that was like a generation that didn't grow up necessarily hearing about like protection and condoms and
Right.
all of
the
that.
hippie
And
era.
so it was just like
Free love, baby.
it was just like a free for all.
Oh, I totally believe that.
Yeah. It's like we need more antibiotics sent to the nursing
Sent to the
homes.
villages.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. And you know what? Like, I get it. If that's what retirement looks like, count me in. There's something kinky and weird about it that is appealing.
The college experience that maybe not everybody has.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's very much like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Fred, thanks for coming on. This has been great.
I had a blast.
You're the first guest that we've had in the podcast van, in the Vanchovy studio.
Vanchovy has treated me well thus far. It still smells like a nice new home.
Yeah, that's the cedar panels. That's
It
the
smells
cedar
great.
ceiling.
Yeah. Definitely doesn't smell artificial or plasticky.
That's great.
Yeah.
We were intentional with the sourcing of the stuff.
Yeah.
Like all the insulation is wool. So it didn't actually, when we put the insulation, it smelled like a barn. It smelled like sheep for a long time. But then once we put the cedar roof in, it like really made a big difference.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Anyway, awesome. How can people find you and your work and all the things? What's your Instagram?
I'm really only active on Instagram, but obviously Chicago Bike Project is where we started, so please look us up and follow, donate, do your thing. If you want to see some of the videos I'm working on, it's Frederiksen Film, and it's a weird spelling, so if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Fredericksen. No CK, no SON. Yeah.
There you have it. First name
Anyways,
Fred, don't forget.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. As always, for being here. We love you very much. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time.
Ciao now.